Thank you for downloading this podcast from the British Theatre Guide. For more information about British Theatre Guide, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.
Pitlochry Festival Theatre in Scotland has announced a repertory season for 2023 running from May to September, featuring a 19-strong ensemble of actors performing in 8 different productions, starting with the musical Gypsy, with a book by Arthur Lawrence, music by Julie Stein and lyrics by Stephen Sondheim, directed by Ben Occhipinti. While the show was still in rehearsal, I managed to get to speak to the 2 lead actors, Blythe Jandoo, who plays Louise, later to become the Gypsy of the title, and Shona White, who plays Louise's formidable mother, Rose, and I asked them how they are finding being in Pitlochry. First, here's Shona.
I am absolutely loving it in Pitlochry, David. As you know, we're both Scottish. I was brought up in Fife, and we used to come on caravan holidays up to this part of the country, and we used to go and watch things at the theatre in Pitlochry. So for me, it's absolutely wonderful to be here, spending the whole summer and working in this wonderful theatre. It's amazing. Really loving it.
Back to your childhood. Has it changed much since then?
Do you know what? I don't actually remember. I mean, the theatre definitely has. The front of house of the theatre is absolutely stunning, but I believe that they've been going through some refurbishments in the last few years with more plans. So I don't remember it being that zhuzhy when I was a wee girl, but then, you know, everything seems different. I do remember the salmon jumping.
And Blythe, do you have childhood memories of Pitlochry, or is this a first for you?
Not really not childhood memories of the theatre, actually. But we kind of would always stop in Pitlochry on the way up further north or to the west, because I'm from Edinburgh. But I did the season last year, so this is my second summer season, and I'm so happy to be back because I just had the best time last year. You get to be challenged, you know, in so many areas, but you're in the most beautiful place, so you can relax.
Yeah,
it's great
because you're part of an ensemble, which is unusual these days. Until fairly recently, Theatre by the Lake in Keswick was doing something similar, but that seemed to have tailed off. So what's it like being part of an ensemble rather than just doing one production?
It's brilliant because you get to see each other doing different things as well. And it can be difficult when you've been in one headspace for one play and then you have to come into the room for a totally different play. That can be challenging. Yeah. But it's such a luxury to challenge yourself in that way and to play parts that like you might not have necessarily got to play because just the way that the roles work. I love it, and I love watching everyone else do their thing in the pieces that I'm not in. Yeah,
Shona, is this something new to you?
It is new for me. Like as you say, like traditional rep, as we're doing here, doesn't really exist much anymore. And I think also since the pandemic, that kind of put paid to that, you know, everyone had to kind of pare everything down, make everything smaller, less people in the room kind of thing. So it's lovely that Pitlochry is continuing their tradition. It is wonderful. And it's really lovely to be part of a huge company. At the moment, we are kind of focusing on Gypsy, which is the big musical they're doing. So I haven't yet encountered lots of the other people, but I can't wait to. Like we're very intense in Gypsy rehearsals at the moment, but I can't wait to then meet everyone else properly and, like Blythe says, go and support them in their performances of all the other pieces. It's a great programme. It's so varied. Brilliant. But we don't get a chance to work with everybody, so it's such a. I mean, it's a mammoth undertaking the way they through cast and schedule everything. It's quite impressive.
Yeah. It's something that you hear older actors talk about being the best training ground, but it's something that's disappeared. So are you finding that you're learning a lot from doing this? I suppose, like Blythe said, you play parts that you possibly wouldn't get the chance to do if you were just being cast for a one-off show.
Yeah, it's like Blythe says, it's a challenge, but it's an exciting challenge. Because one minute you will be completely in the headspace of rehearsing Mama Rose and Gypsy, and then the next minute you have to be, reading Secret Garden. So a completely different character, different accents, go from an American accent to a Northern English accent. But it's great. And I can imagine for younger performers, it is a really amazing training ground. For me, as a much older actor, doing this for the first time, it's kind of like, it's a different way to work, but a very exciting way to work and a challenge. Yeah. Brilliant.
I mean, Blythe, if you've done this before, and I know when I've spoken to actors who worked in the rep at Theatre by the Lake, they always said once all the productions are running, because they all start at different times, once all the productions are running, then you haven't got the rehearsals in the daytime, then you've got time to yourself to go fell running or whatever. What did you find to do in Pitlochry?
Oh, goodness. I mean, I cycled everywhere. You can swim in the lochs. You can, order get a pedalo. You can walk up all the mountains. There's loads. If you're outdoorsy, it's a brilliant place to be. If you're not outdoorsy, there's not loads, but you are close enough to Glasgow and to Edinburgh. You can just jump on a train. So when the Edinburgh Fringe was on, we'd have 3 days where there were shows on that we weren't in, or that I wasn't in, and I was able to go to Edinburgh and completely enjoy the Edinburgh Fringe and also get inspired, by other productions down there. I did the one woman play that I did last year towards the end of the season. So getting to go to the Edinburgh Fringe and watching other one-person plays was just brilliant for me. I could get all the ideas and just see how they did it. And so there's enough to do. And Scotland's pretty small. You can get around easily.
Yeah. But Gypsy is the big one. I can see why you'd be starting work on that first, because it's quite an undertaking. It's often been voted as the best musical of all time over many years. So is it a little daunting to be coming to a show with that sort of reputation?
Shall I take this one to start?
Go for it.
So Mama Rose, the role that I'm playing, is kind of one of those iconic diva roles that everybody wants to play at some point in their career. And so, you mentioned the word daunting. It is daunting to follow in the footsteps of Imelda Staunton, Bette Midler, or Bernadette Peters, but it's also incredibly exciting. And like you say, it's one of the best truly American book musicals ever written. It's so well written. The score is fantastic. The script is good, which is kind of rare. It's rare that you get one that everything completely gels. And it is mammoth. But it's daunting but a challenge and wonderful. And our version is very different because it's the first time they've ever produced an actor-musician version of Gypsy. I believe it's the first time anyway. So we've got an extra aspect of excitement to it. And being in the rehearsal room, I don't know if you agree, Blythe, I'm sure you do. Being in the rehearsal room with the actors playing the instruments around us is just incredible. It's such a vibe. And I think that's an extra element that the audiences coming to see it are just going to be blown away by. Yeah, it's amazing.
It's kind of, it feels vaudevillian in the style because it is pared down and the actors are playing the instruments. It's like we are all part of this vaudeville act, which is really cool. And you're as you're saying, Shona, we get to hear the incredible score played amazingly every time we rehearse, whereas usually you rehearse with a pianist and then it's not till the sitz probe that you get to hear the music, but we get to kind of feel it straight away. So it's really exciting.
Yeah, and you've got Ben Occhipinti directing, who's got a history of actor-musician productions. The last time I interviewed him was when he was doing Summer Holiday in Bolton, which when Elizabeth Newman was in Bolton, and she's done a lot of actor-musicians as well. So you've got some experience there of helping you out, I suppose. I mean,
yeah,
indeed, yeah.
Mama Rose, though, she has Rosie's Turn. That said daunting before, but that must be. How do you prepare yourself for something like that? Because it is a daunting thing, but it must also be quite exhilarating to get to the end of a piece like that.
So that is the big one, and we're not quite finished with that one yet because it comes at the end of the show.
Yeah.
So we're not quite there yet. We have kind of we've had a first go, if you like, and it's something that will need to be repeated and repeated and repeated to get into the bones of it, because it's mammoth. It's mammoth. It's kind of one of those numbers that people avoid doing. If you're asked to do a cabaret or a concert, no one's going to say, right, I'd like to do Rosie's Turn, because it's mammoth. It's a huge soliloquy. But it's amazing. And having the support of the musicians in the room while you're doing it that really helps because you can feel it easier. You know, there's lots of different sections of that number. So it is easier. You feel more supported. But yeah, we're by no means anywhere near with the finished product yet, but we'll get there. By the 19th of May, I will be giving Rose's turn for sure.
Yeah, I mean, you say it's like a soliloquy. It's like a whole Shakespeare play in one number, really, isn't it?
Yes, indeed.
One thing I like about this show, I like most things about this show, but it sort of deceives you with who the main character is constantly, because at first it seems to be June, and then it seems, is it Louise? Because it's Blythe, it's your character's name. On the show, but maybe it's Rose really who's the main character. But Blythe, your character's very much in the background for a large part of it, isn't she?
Yeah, it's actually been interesting rehearsing it because Louise is always there, but she doesn't always have a lot to say, or she's never allowed to speak. She's always spoken over, cut off, interrupted, pushed to the back. Yeah, and it's actually quite frustrating to play that kind of a character, and you really feel her frustration, but also she doesn't believe in herself. She's got no confidence to stand up for herself until she discovers that she does have a talent and that she, you know, her talents are just different than June's. And once she sees that, okay, people find me funny and they find me attractive, and then she has the confidence to speak up. So it's always been a dream to play this role because of the arc that she has and the growth.
Yeah. And it's not just that she's shy. I mean, she is quite downtrodden by her mother. She's pushed to the side, isn't she? Sort of like a Cinderella character if Cinderella had ended up being a stripper instead of a princess, I suppose. Yeah. But when she does come out, how are you able to give away anything about how you're going to stage the later scenes? Because she's a stripper, but she's quite a classy stripper, isn't she?
Yeah, she never fully, you know, got nude. Her thing was the comedy and the tease part of it, and that kind of was more exciting because of the anticipation, and then, I mean, not really giving it to the audience. So I won't give away the staging. You'll have to see that. But it's a quick turnaround from this kind of unsure girl into this star. Happens in like a 4-minute number. Happens in 4 minutes. So it's tricky.
Yeah. But, and it's a challenge for you, but it's clever writing as well that that sort of thing can turn around in such a short time. It's something you can probably only do in a song, isn't it, rather than in dialogue.
Yeah.
So where does that happen?
I mean, that happens during the Gypsy strip. So the first time she is a stripper is because her mum's pushed her on stage and said, you have to do this. You need to be the star. And she doesn't necessarily want to or know if she's good at it. And then you kind of see her find confidence in it. She goes to 2 different venues and then she ends up at Minsky. She's the star, but that happens in one number. Yeah. So it's within the Gypsy strip that she totally changes. I mean, you see her confidence grow once June leaves as well. When June runs away, she's the only daughter left, so that she can start, giving her ideas about the act. And it's just the 3 of them and Herbie at the start of Act 2. So, yeah. Yeah.
Is that your sort of Rosie's turn type challenge, that particular part, is when you have your big change, is it?
Yeah, I mean, that is the big. Yeah, Gypsy strip is definitely the Rose's turn for her. Yeah, it's just so quick, the change that she has. But yeah, you kind of see her growing confidence through Act 2. Yeah, and then at the end, she really tells her mama what she thinks. So yeah, it's good.
I mean, it's known for being about this stripper. It's this vaudeville backdrop, but really it's about a very difficult mother-daughter relationship, isn't it? So how have you worked on that between the 2 of you? I suppose you've got to find that closeness between you 2 as people as well as actors, don't you?
I mean, it's kind of multifaceted, as you say, and what I feel in rehearsals is, because Blythe is absolutely lovely, and what happens in rehearsals is when I have to be really mean to her, I then have to instantly give her a cuddle afterwards because I hate it. we were actually cast to play mother and daughter before in a workshop of a new musical as well, which was over Zoom during lockdown. So that was a bit of a challenge in itself, but that was when we first met each other. Yeah. And so it's really lovely to be in a room with each other, actually acting together and bouncing off each other. And we're building that relationship. It's a funny thing because we're rehearsing in rep, and other plays need the rehearsal room. We don't rehearse a traditional schedule. So we're not in there every day, 10 till 6, as you would traditionally be. So we kind of start building that relationship, and then we're kind of parted for a couple of days. So we have to keep coming back and forward. But I suppose that is potentially quite helpful for our relationship as characters, because it is quite fractious and intense. So we can kind of use that. But yeah.
How have you found it, by building up that relationship? Do you work on it outside the rehearsal room as well?
We haven't really done yet, but I mean, it's very easy with Shona to kind of find that. Well, I mean, I look up to her as an actor anyway. So then when it's Louise looking up to Mama Rose, it's very easy for me to kind of to feel her power. And when Shona, when you're playing Mama Rose, it's the easiest thing in the world to like adore you, even though you're being mean to me. Do you know what I mean? It's like, yeah.
Well, thank goodness. Thank goodness.
Yeah, and the script is so good. Yeah, the script is so good as well, because she bats her aside, but then also gives her nuggets of hope of, oh, you know, you've got powers, and you know, I do love you, I do care about you. So, and Louise doesn't know any different. The whole point of the thing is they just want to be loved, they want to be adored, they want to be noticed. That's like the big theme, is Louise wanting to be noticed by her mum.
Also, even though it seems like Rose is super, super mean to her daughter, to Louise, it's because she wants the absolute best for both her daughters. Obviously, we don't then see June later on, but she wants the best for them. She's got the best will in the world at heart. You know, she's not an evil person. And I think it's quite well written because it kind of shows a bit of reality, because, you know, most humans are flawed and relationships are complicated. Mm-hmm. So it kind of shows multi-layered facets of Rosie's personality, I think. But yeah, she ultimately just wants the best for her daughters.
Also, at that time, the options for women were so limited. You know, it was learn how to sew and cook. And they actually had a really exciting life, and their mum made sure of that. And, you know, maybe there were definitely times they wished they had a normal life, but actually she was giving them the options to make a living and to show themselves off. And yeah.
Yeah, in a way, Rose is actually ahead of her time in that aspect, which is quite interesting. You know, because we're set in the 1930s. So yes, it's lovely, actually. She's a pioneer woman. She's ahead of her time. It's great.
Yeah, she probably feels, well, I'm sure she feels that she has to be like that just to get ahead. Well, she's living through her daughters, but she's just pushing them into a position where they can fend for themselves, I suppose.
Exactly, yeah. And she ultimately does want the best for them. But yeah, she's blatantly in survival mode all the way through.
Yeah.
And it can be joyous and funny, but also very moving and shocking and upsetting. I don't know. We'll have to discover it all. But yeah, we both go on journeys through the show, so it'll be interesting to discover that more.
Yeah, and heartbreaking by the end, because she does have regrets, obviously, by the end, doesn't she?
Yeah, I mean, the thing is that's fascinating. Well, the thing I find most fascinating about this musical is that it is based on real people. But it's not a true story, and that's why it's Gypsy, the musical fable, because it's not exactly what happens to them. It's based on them. We kind of stop the story at a certain point, but there is more that happens. And you know, I'm reading a book about the real Rose and finding out fascinating facts about her. But yes, our show is kind of a nugget. It doesn't really touch on the half of it. Yeah. But yes, it does. Yes, it does end in a very poignant way, but hopeful as well.
Yeah. Well, I think the real Rose was actually worse than portrayed in the show, wasn't she?
Yes, she was. Let's not talk about her. I've been yes, like I say, I've been reading a biography, and it's some of it's quite shocking, but that's not our version of Rose. Yeah.
But a lot of people think musical theatre is fairly frivolous, and there's not a great deal of depth to it. But this is an old-fashioned musical in many ways, but it's one that does have some depth to get your teeth into, doesn't it?
Oh, it definitely does. And like we've already touched upon, it does look at human flaws and potential toxic traits, and family relationships. It does really look at a lot of that in a very short space of time.
Yeah.
So, like Blythe was saying, everything happens so quickly in certain sections. Myself and Rose and Herbie fall in love in 2 minutes. The joy of musical theatre, you have to portray so much in a short amount of time. But there is a lot in there. There's a lot of depth and a lot of heart, as well as the musical theatre joy, frivolity, dance, but big song and dance numbers. There's that on top of it as well. There's everything. Yeah. There's something for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah, it sounds like a lot of work to rehearse.
It certainly is, yes, especially as we've got the actor-musician aspect. It's kind of an extra discipline to acknowledge. Normally there'd just be the 3 disciplines. There's 4, so it's massive, but really amazing. It's going to be incredible. I hope. No, it will be. It will be.
It will, I'm sure. But we mentioned the ensemble. You're playing other things in the ensemble that you haven't started work on yet. What else are you doing?
So we're both in The Secret Garden, and I'm playing Mary. Are you Mrs. Medlock, Shona? I
am Mrs. Medlock. Yes, it's so funny because it's not in my head yet because I've not allowed I'm in Gypsy mode. I've not allowed myself to go there, but yeah, I'm excited to do that. And that one's going to be outside in the garden, Secret Garden in the garden, which just sounds fascinating to me. Yes, I'm looking forward to that. It's
magical. It's going to be so magical because we'll be talking about the healing powers of nature whilst the audience is there feeling that and smelling it and experiencing it, and it's just going to be. I'm really excited to see that one.
And that's the family show, and Elizabeth Newman has written the adaptation of the play, and that's the family show. So hopefully, kids will enjoy that one and being outside with us and stuff. I can't wait to see what we do with it. We haven't started that one at all yet. So it's yet to be reeled. And then myself and my fellow actor Ben Stock, who's playing Herbie with me in Gypsy, we are doing some musical theatre concerts in the theatre. We're doing one that's a West End musical extravaganza and one that's the greatest musicals of all time. So we've got that. And then Blythe is doing incredible things. I can't wait to come and see her in her one-woman play.
Yes, we are bringing back the Maggie Wall, which I put on last year, written by Martin McCormick. So that was the first time it had ever been done last year. So I'm really thrilled that they want to bring it back and that they enjoyed it enough to give it another go. Really excited. It's a brilliant, brilliant piece and a whole other challenge.
Yeah, I mean, talk about the challenges of a musical, but everybody I've ever spoken to who's done a solo show always says it's a lot more challenging than they expected it to be. Did you find that? Yeah,
I mean, it's kind of like, where do you even... It just feels so big, you don't know where to begin. But I had a brilliant director, Amy Liptrot, who, it just never felt difficult. I'd start the show, though. I'd be in the studio theatre kind of like warming up, thinking, do I know these lines? And, the DSM would say, are you ready? And every time I was like, I don't think I'll ever be ready, but you just have to do it. And then once it starts, you're on a roll, and it's an amazing kind of ride for 50 minutes or however long it is. But it is scary because once you press go, once you start, there's no one to help you. Yeah. There's no one giving you cues. You don't go off for any water. That's also a big thing you don't think about. It's like once you leave your dressing room, there's no more water. You can't go to the toilet. That's it. That's the challenge. But yeah, no, it's brilliant.
And what's the running time of that? How long are you on stage for?
Yeah, I think it's around 50 minutes, just under an hour. Yeah, in the gorgeous new studio theatre that they opened last year. So I was the second actor to work in there. And it's just gorgeous. Feel very lucky.
Yeah. You both, as you said at the start, you're both Scottish actors. What's the scene like for Scottish actors? Is there still lots of pressure to go down south for work, or is there plenty there in Scotland at the moment?
Oh, that's an interesting question. So I have been working professionally for over 25 years now. And back in my day when I trained, it was London, London, London. Yeah. And actually that's where all the colleges were. So I moved down to London when I was 17 to train. And just the way it's happened, I have pretty much only worked in the West End on national tours and international tours. So before now, the only time I've really worked in Scotland is when number one tours have visited Edinburgh, Aberdeen, Glasgow. So for me, this is an absolute joy to be working on something that's actually coming out of Scotland. And it's been interesting relocating because I am only just integrating into the scene and sussing it all out, thinking of a potentially spending more time in Scotland because I do miss it. And I do, it is quite sad that I had to move to London at 17 because there wasn't really much here at the time. Now there seems to be so much, but Blythe can chip in on this. There seems to be loads going on. Since I came here in the autumn, everything just seems to be there. It's buzzing. So yeah, Blythe, you can jump in on this because.
I think there is starting to be more film and TV. And there's always lots of new stuff here. Scotland is great for kind of funding new projects, new work, new adaptations. They don't do a lot of like the classics. They don't really bring back. Well, they don't actually do a lot of musical theatre. Pitlochry is kind of one of the only places where they produce musical theatre, which is such a shame. But there are definitely things going on, but it's just a smaller place. And yeah, I think it's kind of going to have to be a bit of everything. So as much as I'd love to only work here for the rest of my career, I know that's not the reality. It's going to be back to London on a tour, to Manchester, wherever it is.
Well, that's what we do. We go where the work is, and that's part of the fun and the adventure. We've got them. There's the National Theatre of Scotland as well, who, like you say, Blythe, we do have a lot of institutions who will support new work and new writing, and that's really cool. I'd really like to
plug the last show that I did. It's called A Mother's Song.
Oh, there you go.
A Mother's Song. It was written by Finn Anderson and Tanya Azevedo, and we put it on at the McRobert in Stirling for 5 days. It was kind of a, here's this brilliant show, please produce it so we can go on tour kind of situation. But the music is beautiful. It's like Scottish folk music and how it travelled over to America and turned into, bluegrass, country, western, all this stuff. But also about motherhood and family lines. And yeah, that's a brilliant new Scottish musical, which everyone should know about. So I'm plugging that right now.
Yeah, I was so sad to miss that. I really desperately wanted to see it, but I couldn't make it work. But hopefully there's another life for that one.
Yeah,
but that's great that Scotland are behind producing new musicals, because I love new writing. So I'm really passionate about it, and I think that especially after the pandemic, people are a little bit reticent to produce new writing because they're a little bit scared they're not going to make any money. Let's face it. So people are like relying on the old favourites kind of thing. So so it's great that Scotland is doing that. That's exciting.
Yeah.
Pitlochry's season starts when? It's in May. Well, next month, isn't it?
19th of May, we open with Gypsy. And then everything else follows. Gypsy finishes on 30th of September. But it's such a varied programme. It's incredible. I cannot wait till we've settled in and we can go and watch each other and support each other. We've got a Streetcar Named Desire, Brief Encounter. There's so many things happening. And new writing. So the Maggie Wall and To the Bone, there's another one, brand new writing. Yeah, can't wait.
That was Shona White, who plays Rose, and Blythe Jandoo, who plays Louise, from the cast of Gypsy, which runs at Pitlochry Festival Theatre from the 19th of May to the 30th of September 2023, while Elizabeth Newman's adaptation of The Secret Garden will run from the 7th of July to the 19th of August, and the revival of The Maggie Wall by Martin McCormick from the 9th to the 28th of June. Other productions in the season include Tennessee Williams's A Streetcar Named Desire, the Scottish premiere of Emma Rice's adaptation of Noel Coward's Brief Encounter, new plays from Peter Arnott and Isla Cowan, Group Portrait in a Summer Landscape and To the Bone, and Sherlock Holmes, A Study in Lipstick, Ketchup and Blood by Lesley Hart, based on Arthur Conan Doyle's A Study in Scarlet. For more information, see pitlochryfestivaltheatre.com.
You've been listening to a podcast from British Theatre Guide. For more information, please visit britishtheatreguide.info.